Good afternoon, Stampers. Okay, our second card for the month is a soft suede kind of antique card. It's made with the Hello Doily giant stamp. It's like a background stamp, just like the Au Francais, which we use the Au Francais and the Hello Doily. We use the Daydream medallions to stamp the little and cut the little flowerette type thing on the front. Antique brads, the crocheted ribbon, soft suede ribbon, which is the 3/8 inch. It's done on Sahara sand with very vanilla matting, and we use the new little stamp set from Celebration, which you can get if you spend $50 or more before March 22nd, which is next Friday. You can get, if you spend $50 or more, you can get the little stamp set. If you spend another $50, you can get the little punch that goes with the stamp set. And I used the little trinkets safety pins. It's a really quick and simple little card. I'm going to just show you how I did it. I did use my digital studio for the doily. I do have the stamp, but I didn't want to use it for this because every month I try to incorporate my digital studio stamp into one of the projects. So I used the My Digital Studio Hello Doily, and I stamped it, printed it out on the top of a 1/4 sheet of Sahara sand. We're going to trim this to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. But first we want to stamp the Au Francais across the bottom. I would have done it all in My Digital Studio, but the Au Francais background stamp does not come in My Digital Studio as of yet. So I'm going to stamp the bottom of this, and what I want to do is just mask off this doily because I don't want it to get, I don't want the Au Francais to come up that far. And what I'm going to use is just a Post-it note. You can just, anytime you go to a doctor's office or anywhere like that, you can pick up a little stack of Post-it notes. Your insurance guy usually has some on his desk. We're just going to mask that off like that. And when you're using a large background stamp like the Au Francais, it's easier to put your paper on the stamp. You can see where I made a little error in judgment of color on the back of this paper. So I'm just using the reverse. But the Au Francais stamp is much easier to stamp if you'll use it laying flat and then place your item on it. So what I'm going to do is ink up the stamp with soft suede. And just tap it, rub it, however you like to apply that. And mainly what I want to try to do is line it up with one of these lines down here because I can't really see what I'm stamping. So I'm going to lay this down on the stamp. That looks pretty straight. I'm going to put a little piece of paper over here like this so I can rub my hand all over without getting ink on me. Like that. And just hold your finger there and pick it up. And that should make it without blurring. You don't want it to get blurry from where you moved it trying to pick it up. And that's pretty good here. It's pretty, usually when you lay a piece of paper on a piece of paper and try to mask it off, it's going to give like an edge because it can't possibly be this, even though it's a tiny little thickness of paper, it will still make a difference. But that's close enough to suit me. So now I'm going to take it and I'm going to trim the paper, trim this sheet to 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So trim off right about there, and then trim it to right at 3 7/8. I'm going to have to measure this 5 1/8 because I'm not, my little trimmer doesn't have that setting. So it's right there. And just trim that off. And that looks good to me. So I've got my doily, not quite, I could have centered it a little bit more, I guess. But I'll have ribbon across here that covers up this part. And now what I want to do is I want to spritz it with my spritzing tool. This is a Stampin' Up! Product. You take your markers, you take the brush tip in, you put it in the spritzer, tighten it down just to hold it in place. You don't want to tighten it too tight that it presses too far against the nib, and you just hold it, depending on how big you want your splotches to be, speckles to be, depends on how close you hold it to the paper. If you want it just to be light, I'd say hold it about 4 to 5 inches off. If you want it to be heavier, just push your brush tip down a little further like that and hold it a little closer to the paper, and you'll get more bigger, darker splotches. You see how I did that there. Okay. And don't forget to put the cap back on your pens. And always store your markers laying flat. If you store them standing up in a jar or dish, all the ink will go to one end, and then one end will be dry. So you want to make sure you always store your Stampin' Up! Markers flat. That's just my little tip for the day. Alright, I'm going to use a little bit of the Stampin' Up! Smooshing spray to kind of give it just a little bit of sparkly effect. So just shake that up good, spritz it a couple of times, and that's good enough. It doesn't need very much. Got my little spray booth over here by my table. So you can see it's got just a little bit of shimmer. I don't want it to be real shiny because I want it to be more antique-y. And I'm going to just let that dry a minute. And I'm going to sponge the edges with a sponge dauber and my ink pad. And for the colors, I have a little sponge dauber storage compartment that my friend Kelly Sorensen got for me. But for the colors I use a lot of, which is like soft suede and crumb cake, I just keep some in one of the little empty embellishment holders so that I can stamp it. Oh, and there's my phone. Okay, I had to stop and catch that telephone because the machine didn't pick it up. But anyway, so I've inked up my daubers, and I'm just going to sponge around the edges, making sure I get right on the edge with soft suede, just to kind of give it a little antique-y look around the edges. Okay, now this piece is going to be mounted to a piece of Very Vanilla, and I like to just cut mine into 1/4 of a sheet size, mount my pieces, and then go back and trim them. It's just gives it a little bit, it's just easier than trying to get it lined up correctly. And then I just use my trimmer and trim that off to about I like a little less than 1/8 of an inch. Just like skinny margins. And just do that. Okay, that's good. Alright. And now we want to put our ribbon around. I'm going to wrap the ribbon. And once again, I'm going to be using my handy dandy tying tool, which I think just makes it easier for doing this. And I'm using the crocheted ribbon. And I'm just going to put it around, because it's just going to be a knot, not a bow. I'm just going to tie it like that. And then I'm going to stick in a little piece of the soft suede. This is the taffeta ribbon. It's 3/8 of an inch. And soft suede is one of my favorite muted colors. Once I get my little tie like that, then all I'm going to do is take this piece and just tie it in a knot. Or tie it in just once over like a shoelace, like that. And then this, we'll just tie over that. And it'll kind of come out to be like side-by-side knots, like that. And then you're ready to trim it off. I just got these new scissors from Stampin' Up. Those Stampin' Up snips. They are fabulous. Nice little snips. They're as good as the little bee scissors, if not better, I think. Okay, I don't want this to be right in the center of my paper, so I'm going to lay it on here. And I want the bow to be right about there. And so I want to clip the back of my ribbon right about there. So that should leave it just right for wrapping around. I'm going to put just a little score pal tape on there. You could use your sticky strip if you wanted to. I'm going to just use score pal tape, since that's what I have laying here. And just stick that down. You know how hard it is sometimes to get tape to even stick to ribbon, but the score pal tape does a pretty good job. Some on the other side. Pinch that off. Okay, so I'm going to take that, and that's going to be right about there. Well, get it twisted around the right way here. There we go. And then just wrap that around. That way you haven't wasted any ribbon that's going to be on the back by using the little tying tool. Plus it gives you a nice knot. Place that down and around. Okay. Work on how you want that to look. Okay. And then I have taken my little Daydream medallions and stamped them, mounted them together, and they're going to be, I'm just going to put just a little tape on the back of that. But I think I'm going to actually sponge that also. Kind of gives it just a little definition. Put that down. I've matched up my little design. I'll do a little sponging on this. Yeah, so it adds just a little bit of dimension. We're going to use one of the antique brads. Just like that. And I've always liked to actually have my brads go through my layers so that it kind of holds the piece in place instead of just having it stuck on with like a glue dot. And since this is going to be on the paper, I'm going to put it, I'll just do it like this. I'm just going to make a little hole. That's where it'll go through. These antique brads are not like the mini brads. They have pretty large stems. Can't get that in there. It's what happens when you have fingernails. Get them in there. Good Lord. And then I'll put that through that hole. There we go. That way I know it's very secure right there. It's not going anywhere. Okay. And then I will put sticky strip on the back of this, and the whole thing will be mounted to a piece of Sahara sand flip file. I got a flip top type card. Portrait, flip top like this. You can add some pearls. I've even added a piece of bond type paper inside with the same doily printed on it with my sentiment. And that's this quick and easy little card for this time. Enjoy!